Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the English Shooting live stream. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Callum, and of course, I will be your host for this evening. For all you regulars, you know what this is all about. For anybody new, well, welcome and thanks again for stopping by. This is an opportunity to talk about all things shooting, even though the main topic is about knives, because we can have knives, of course, but all things shooting or any other topics for that matter. But please do get involved. There is a chat box. If you're watching this after the stream, please don't moan that it's 2 hours long. That's a live stream. That's what they usually are. And actually, in this day and world, that's quite short live stream. But do use the comment section, use the chat if you're here live, and get involved. Ask any questions that you might want to ask about shooting, firearms ownership, getting certificates either here in the UK or across the world. If I'm not able to help, I'm sure there will be other knowledgeable people in the chat. But more importantly, hit that like button, make sure you are subscribed, and let's get into it. Of course, knives and guns have a synergy. Most people that are into firearms, be that for recreational target shooting, collecting, or they just love the mechanics of it, do seem to have a link to knives as well. Maybe have a knife collection, again appreciate the craftsmanship. So we're talking about effectively things that the government doesn't like. So we talk about that here quite a bit. And I thought talking about knives, as I'm sure many of you will be interested, would be a hot topic. And certainly for me, there's been a lot of confusion around the recent announcement from Royal Mail about further restrictions and prohibitions within their service surrounding bladed instruments and sharp objects. So there has been an update, and I think this is where a lot of confusion has taken place. Certainly, I was under the impression it was going to be a complete no-go for shipping any sort of sharp, pointy object with Royal Mail, even though their sort of partner, sister company, Parcel Force, is responsible for shipping firearms across the UK. So it's like, well, hang on a minute, we've got a business that can ship guns, but we're going to stay away from knives. So I'll bring up the original, uh, original Royal Mail statement, which obviously got everybody, got everybody's knickers in a twist, because not only is it an inconvenience, and I'm going to say to most people it just would be an inconvenience that you can't mail order your knife, and of course there are plenty of legitimate reasons of why you're buying a knife, even if you don't intend to use it. And a good example is actually sat behind me of a knife that, unless I've got a sticker built on, rarely gets used. It is purely the appreciation of the craftsmanship and the sort of beauty of the object. So yeah, not being able to have stuff shipped to your house is going to be completely inconvenient. But for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, it's going to be pretty devastating. There are a lot of mail order knife companies that do a lot of business that will no longer be able to do that based on what Royal Mail is saying. So this was the original notice. I couldn't actually find it on Royal Mail because it has been superseded, but this is what sparked everything off. From the 22nd of April 2024, we will be prohibiting knives or blades defined by Section 141A Criminal Justice Act 1988 and bladed products as defined by Section 41 of the Offensive Weapons Act 2019 from the Royal Mail network. Currently, these items can only be sent using our age verification service and returned using Royal Mail tracked returns. However, from the 22nd of April 2024, sending and returning these items to UK destinations via any Royal Mail service, I don't know if that necessarily means Parcel Force as well. Technically, Parcel Force is a Royal Mail service, but we won't get into the semantics, will be prohibited, meaning that these items cannot be sent even if our age verification service is used. Our age verification service will still be available for other age-related items, including alcohol, and unless prohibited elsewhere, you can still send items not covered by the Act. So as a bit further information, basically the items that they are referring to include but are not limited to any knife blade, any kitchen knife, regardless of size or design, bread knives, knives that can be used for hobbies and trades, regardless of whether they are marketed as knives, for instance, utility knives and snap-off cutters, gardening and farming tools that have a blade, any trade tool that could commonly be described as a knife. I identify as a knife, ban me. Butcher's knives, including meat cleavers, cutlery knives, scissors with sharp edges. Oh, Jesus. Sporting equipment with a blade, which I think a lot of people are um, they're assuming is like an ice skate. Replica and antique knives. You can't even send replica knives. It's like even like a rubber knife. No, no, it looks like a knife. I can't send it, including those used for reenactment purposes. I guess it does include um, yeah, rubber knives, handmade and bespoke knives, open razors where the blade is exposed, any axe, any sword, survival knives or machete. Also, see weapons below. And that this was a post on eBay actually. Been thinking of getting myself a VideoMic food processor and wondering, will this include? That's actually a very good point as well, because yeah, if you've got something with exposed blades like a food processor, technically that would have been prohibited. So as you can see, this is not good, right? Also, I don't think it is justified and proportionate in any way, shape, or form. And Offensive Weapons Act 2019, the gift that keeps on giving. Of course, banning or Royal Mail themselves deciding that they're not going to send any bladed articles, it all roots from the Offensive Weapons Act 2019, which did bring in further restrictions and requirements for sending knives or blades through the post, although it didn't prohibit it. And my assumption is that basically the risk, the requirements that they would need to adhere to do it lawfully and to to meet the criteria of the Offensive Weapons Act 2019 was obviously um, so intense. It was so resource um, the requirements for the resource to be able to manage it, to be able to facilitate it, obviously made it prohibitively expensive or complicated for Royal Mail to continue offering that service. So they just took the easy way out and said, well, we won't do it. I can imagine there's actually been quite some large, significant companies, Amazon, B&Q, Wix, so any DIY store, any garden store, any hardware store, or any store that sells knives in any capacity is going to have an objection. We shop online now. The majority of sales are through online, they're contactless. We all know the high street is dying, and anybody that's been down the high street recently, you will know that it's full of micro pubs, cafes, barbershops, and charity shops. So that's basically what our high street is becoming, all services. So you get like dentists and doctors and stuff like that. But we don't shop like we used to, and people rely. There's a lot of people that rely on online shopping to be able to purchase essential items. And whether the government likes it or not, a knife is an essential item. An adult cannot function um, on many levels without having access to a knife, mainly to eat, but certainly if you actually work a real job, no offense to any desk jockeys out there, but if you have a hands-on job, you work in a factory, you work in manufacturing, you work in ship. There's so many. Well, I'm not going to sit here and list all of the jobs that you would often see a knife, but many businesses require employees have access to knives, to use knives, and those businesses will require to be able to purchase those knives and have them delivered to their door. So I can imagine a huge amount of backlash from Royal Mail because of this, and a lot of people just thinking that they had absolutely lost the plot, because ultimately, what is being achieved here? Now, I think for Royal Mail, it was purely a business decision because of probably the cost and time and resources to meet the criteria of the Offensive Weapons Act. But what is the Offensive Weapons Act actually achieving with this point and making it more difficult to send a knife? I don't get me wrong. I think it's perfectly logical to ensure that a 5-year-old isn't able to go on Amazon and have a knife delivered to them. There are lots of objects and substances that, under 18 should not be able to mail order to their door without checks and balances to ensure that they're not going to get their hands on it. And I completely agree with that. And that does make absolute sense. But Royal Mail have already covered this with obviously their age verification service. What is the Offensive Weapons Act other than those age checks doing to prevent knife crime and making it harder to mail order? As I've said, a knife is an essential object, and I would be pretty certain in saying that every household within the UK, regardless of location, regardless of the size of the house, the background of the house owner, how rich or poor you are, whatever, there is going to be a very sharp knife somewhere within that drawer. And all these gang members, all of these hoodlums, all of the people going out there and committing these knife crimes, no matter how hard you make it to buy in a shop, no matter how hard you make it to mail order online, they are simply going to be able to go home, open the kitchen drawer, pick up a knife, and go and do exactly what they were going to do with it anyway. Just because the knife doesn't have zombie written down the side of it, and it might not be jaggy and scary looking, a 10-inch kitchen knife can be a very effective lethal weapon, and most households have them freely available within the house. So yes, I'm sure many of you will understand, and certainly long-term viewers of this channel will know of my dislike of the motivations and real effectiveness of the Offensive Weapons Act 2019. However, that is the worst case announcement of Royal Mail, but I think because of the backlash, they have since amended it. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's not perfect, but it is a lot better. So this is the actual well, unless they change it, again between now and then, because they don't seem to be able to make up their mind. But this is the actual now plan from Royal Mail. So bladed items, sharp object and weapons from 7th of May 2024. So prohibited bladed items, hunting, combat, survival type knives, daggers, movie knives such as Rambo or Crocodile Dundee style knives, replica fighting knives such as Bowie knives, throwing knives, machetes, swords, fantasy knives, knives with images or words that suggest use for violence, stiletto knives, battle axes, open razors / folding razors, and any similar items are prohibited and cannot be sent. Also see weapons. Restricted bladed items. So they've created a little bit of separation. Prohibited bladed items cannot be sent. However, other knives or blades as defined by section 141A Criminal Justice Act 1988, or bladed products as designed by section 41 of the Offensive Weapons Act 2019, can be sent provided certain conditions are met. These include any knife or knife blade, including cutlery knives, bread knives, knives that can be used for hobbies and trades, for instance, utility knives and snap-off cutters, gardening, camping, lock knives, bushcraft and farming tools with a blade, or other trade tool that can be commonly described as a knife, butcher's knives, including meat cleavers, felling axes, and razor blades. These items may only be sent using the Royal Mail tracked age verification service. This service is only available through Royal Mail click and drop. Items, or business if you're a business user, items must be packaged appropriately, so items present no risk to employees, other postal items or recipients. Wrap heavily Wrap heavy cardboard around sharp edges and points strong enough to ensure that the contents do not pierce the outer packaging. Wrap each item with cushioning material and place in a suitable outer container, such as a padded envelope. The sender's name and address must be clearly visible on the outer packaging. The outer packaging must be clearly marked to indicate a blade item is enclosed, and it must not be handled by somebody under the age of 18. Note, this excludes folding pocket knives where the cutting edge of its blade does not exceed 3 inches, or razor blades permanently enclosed in a cartridge or housing where less than 2 mm is exposed. Get your verniers out, which can be sent without using age verification services. What? So what's the point? What is the point? So as long as somebody gets stabbed by a knife under 3 inches, we're all okay. Like they're perfectly happy for 5-year-olds to be going around stabbing each other with less than 3-inch knives. Like what is the actual point? Like seriously. Like 3 inches can still be lethal. What are they trying to achieve? Like honestly. So, um you're confused yet? Because I still can't make head nor tails of really what I can or can't send. And there's a huge amount of subjectiveness here, right? Um, it's things like, and any similar items. Well, surely every knife is similar to other knives. It's like that's not really defining anything there. Yeah, and also, how are they going to check, right? If they see a knife come through, how do they know it's a hunting knife and not a gardening tool? How do they know it's a Bowie knife? I know, okay, Bowie knives have a quite distinctive a distinctive look, but also gardening, right? I'm sorry, a machete is a gardening is a knife that is used for gardening. That's quite like, of course, it's probably very rare that people have a garden that you require a machete to maintain it with, but a machete is a gardening instrument. It is a gardening tool, more like a jungle tool. Okay, I'll give them that. What's a fantasy knife, right? Is that it's like so basically they've whilst it's not a complete no now, which I'll take, that's progress. We're now going to have such confliction, we're going to have such confusion to what can and can't be sent. And are you really telling me that the people in the scanners are going to memorize this list off by heart? Are the people on the scanners identifying these items really going to know the difference? So what one of two things is going to happen, right? Legit under this, restricted bladed items that can be sent are going to be commonly and often, if not completely, flagged and prevented from being sent on anyway, because the scan operator, the workers at Royal Mail aren't entirely sure whether it should be allowed, so they just pull it to be safe rather than sorry. Or the complete reverse is they won't be able to tell the difference. They know that some knives are legal, and are they really being paid enough to care that much and spend that amount of time to sit there and work out the difference? So they're just going to let everything through. And I'm leaning towards the latter, which is sort of great for us to still be able to be adults and be in possession of sharp pointy things without hurting anybody. But again, it makes it so pointless. This is either just going to collapse and end up in an effective total prohibition anyway, or it's not going to do a single thing and still dangerous knives, prohibited knives, are still going to be allowed through. So I really don't get what they are trying to achieve here. And bearing in mind there was a YouTube video I saw recently. I think it was, what's his name? Is it Max Frosh? God, what's his who ended up basically scamming. He basically ended up scanning. Let me see if I find it, because it's actually, I was meant to get this up prepared as always. I was meant to get this up before for the stream because I think it's incredibly relevant. Max Fosh, Fosh, yeah. Let's have a look. Wasn't that long ago? It's quite a funny video if I'm going to be honest, because he basically ends up getting Amazon to pay for like road resurfacing in a really funny roundabout way. Amazon, let me try and find it. I'm not going to be able to. Was it Matt Frosch or somebody else? I think it might have been somebody else at this point. I'm not going to spend any more time trying to find it. But basically, the crux is the main point of the video was to show sort of how flawed Amazon's sort of verification process was, and he ends up buying knives, he ends up buying rat poison, and a number of other age restricted items. And he actually gets like his 5-year-old nephew. He like literally hands in the card and goes, "Buy me a knife." So this 5-year-old goes on there, uses his card in the account, places this order, and then they're there for the Royal Mail delivery. Royal Mail knocks on the door, and I think they either posted it through the letterbox or I think they posted it through the letterbox. So there was no age verification on it. And he basically shows this 5-year-old getting hold of a large quantity of rat poison, knives, and other sharp, pointy things. So this idealistic view of having age verification is all well and good if it's enforced. And anybody that's received anything from Royal Mail signed for will probably understand now that the postal service seems to think that them signing for it ticks that box of being signed for. So many things, I've even had special delivery items left outside on the doorstep, high value, signature required, just left there. So it's all well and good if it's enforced. I don't think Royal Mail really care that much, and this is just either more seen to be doing something and complying, and again, the offensive weapons bill was all about seen to be doing something, and it's not actually going to solve the overall issue. So the complexities of it are going to be an absolute nightmare going forward. The good thing is I was looking online, a number of the typical knife sellers. The one that I probably use more than anybody else is Henny Haynes. Can highly recommend them. I'm not paid by them. I'm not endorsed by them. Oh, let's get that up. It's just a genuine website that I use, and they are rapid fast. They are still quoting that they're using Royal Mail. I'm sure they will be aware of this unless they haven't updated their website. So it very much looks like they're going to continue using Royal Mail, and I guess their range of stuff all conforms, although they do have machetes. So that would be actually really interesting to see if you can still buy machetes. Well, okay, these prohibitions and restrictions haven't come in yet, so of course they would still do it. But you can see, interestingly, the additional fee for knives, and that's because the age verification process does cost a lot more. So unfortunately that's being passed on to the customer, which sort of again annoys me. I really don't think this is going to achieve anything. I really don't think it's going to stop anything. Yes, again, stopping kids from getting hold of knives, I agree with, but Royal Mail seemingly don't do that. I've been handed stuff. I guess I look visibly over the age of 18, so they would just hand me. They would hand me a knife if it comes through. But we have seen on various videos them not sticking to it. So it's all well and good. People are getting charged more. They're putting a strain on the knife business to what avail? But I think overall, the majority of things that we are going to need are still going to come through. I'm just absolutely perplexed at the list that that they've put out here. Like, honestly, what does it matter if it's a throwing knife or it's a meat cleaver, right? Why does it matter if it's a Rambo knife or it's a bread knife or a hunting knife or a tool knife? And also, what is a farming tool? You know, for me, hunting is a part of is a part of farming. So, is a hunting knife a farming tool? Um, yes, it's incredibly complex. I would like to know what the process is if you send an item that is prohibited, whether they just seize it and destroy it, whether they send it back, because we could end up seeing millions of pounds worth of knives and stock be binned, either mistakenly or whatever. I just think it's an absolute disaster. But the main reason I wanted to show this for anybody that was curious, confused, because I still am. This is it. If you want a snapshot of where we're going with Royal Mail going forward, this is it. So yeah, don't we do have a few other stuff to discuss, but don't forget to hit that like button. I'm gonna have a see what you guys are saying this evening. But yeah, hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. I do want to say, yeah, David, I did get your photo. The timing, it seems very deliberate to to make me feel jealous. Don't get too jealous. Don't send that right before a stream. Just when we're about to talk about Royal Mail not wanting to send sharp, pointy things, you're sending me pictures of Beretta 9mm. But yes, I did get it. It's an absolutely stunning gun. Just out of, David, if you're happy for me to show a picture of it on the stream, I'll be more than happy to share. No serial numbers. I've already got a picture put aside. No serial numbers. I know some people don't like that. But if you want a safe for a public consumption photo, then I'll bring that up. But thanks for sending it over. For those that don't know, the Beretta 92 FS, although this is a Beretta 92D, I think you said you went for, but the 92 FS specifically for me is like one of my dream guns. Not just because it's a handgun. It's like it's probably one of the guns that sparked my sort of fascination in shooting and firearms ownership and sort of firearm enthusiasm. But yes, I'm still jealous as hell. Matthew, hope everyone's got their Section 5 cutlery license ready for Sunday's dinners when they banned them. I know we have joked about this for so many years about Section 5 sporks and all that. It really just does feel like we're heading in that direction. That knives haven't, just for clarity for anybody that doesn't know, whilst Royal Mail doesn't want to send sharp pointy things anymore, which is a bit sad, we don't need licenses for knives here. We can own fairly nice knives, fairly sharp knives as well, without a license. And just to remember, as a reminder, I probably need to give this thing a clean actually. This was actually like a special commission knife for me. I absolutely love it. It's my biltong knife. For those that don't know, biltong doesn't always come up in little pieces. It can come in big sticks. And whilst I would just like to sit there all day chomping on it, it's more civilized to chop it up. So it's the biltong knife, but it's made by Marmaduke Creations, Damascus, all handmade. Obviously, he uses grinders and sharpeners and stuff like that, but he crafts it by hand using those tools. You know what I mean? So yeah, we can own knives. I do have a small collection. I am a little bit of a knife enthusiast. I do very much try to avoid getting into too many expensive hobbies. And as I found out, knives can be as equally as expensive as firearms, cars, watches, and whiskey. So I'm just making a rod for my own back. Unfortunately, I don't actually have the two knives that I use the most on me, because they're the sort of by where I put my keys and all that, because I literally use them every day. But my go-to everyday knife is our Benchmates. I've got the little was it the mini bug out and the completely forgotten what it is, but I've shown them both on stream. But it's just you know, that, so that I'm guessing would be legal. I guess that's a, would you say a kitchen knife, or is that a hunting knife? Because originally Marmaduke Creations, I think, made this as a hunting knife, but I use it more as a kitchen knife. So does that mean I can send it via Royal Mail because I identify it as a kitchen knife? So that might be okay to send. Might. And it said folding. Did it say non-locking? Let's bring that up back up. What was the exact words? This excludes folding pocket knives where the cutting it. So it doesn't say anything about locking. And for anybody that um, doesn't know, I've got a whole video on knife laws here in the UK. But basically, you don't need a good reason. You don't need a justification for carrying a knife under with a blade under 3 inches that is non-locking. So, you know, if you have that clipped into your belt and you're stopped by the police and they go, "Why have you got that?" You go, I don't need to give you an answer. I'd probably come up with a better answer than that, but I guess the official legal answer is like, I don't need a reason. You can still have locking knives because this is I you know, I wasn't able to buy actually anything proper in the shop. I don't know if that's, maybe I'll make it bigger. That helps. So this was from the CZ shop in Prague. So I couldn't buy the gun, obviously. So I bought a knife, but this is a locking knife. It's effectively a frame lock. But this would be okay to send because it doesn't say anything about locking. It's under 3 inches on the blade and it does fold. So that would be perfectly okay to send via Royal Mail without any age verification. I mean, that is, you know, that's a buck knife. That is most definitely a hunting knife. You know, that it comes with a little sheath and all of that. So that you can't send at all because it's a hunting knife, but that you can send without age verification, no problem at all. Like, okay, it's a little bit bigger, and regardless of what people say, caliber and size does count. But I'm sorry, if somebody comes up in the street and presents that to me in a threatening demeanor, I'm not going to be stood there going, "Oh, I'm so glad it's not this one." I'm still going to be pretty terrified that somebody has a knife and they're trying to use it against me. But they can just buy this without any age verification shipped to their door. Ones that obviously definitely wouldn't be allowed to be sent would be, you know, one of these. Again, sort of hunting Bowie knife. So yeah, it's a pretty big knife, and I'm just going to test it. Yeah, it's still blunt because I decided to start polishing one side and not the other, because it took long enough to get it like that, and I just ran out of effort for the other side. But it is literally blunt. I have encountered sharper spoons. So this is prohibited, right? I mean, is it technically still a knife because it's blunt? I don't know. I'm not going to ask for Royal Mail because they can't seem to decide either. But this is prohibited. Like a blunt old, you know, hunting knife, but this potentially is fine. So, you know, because this is a kitchen instrument, that's absolutely fine. But that's not. Or what about, you know, and that one, little hunting bowie knife. Like, so it's utterly pointless and utterly confusing. Again, my Benchmade knives would absolutely be able to send those no problem at all without age verification. They're under 3-inch blades and they're folding. So I again, it just very much does feel like somebody in an office somewhere in the Home Office for the Offensive Weapons Bill and Royal Mail have literally sat down and gone, we need to limit the type of knives that people are being stabbed or killed with. Like the issue is not the type of knife. The issue is not whether it is locking or unlocking, it's folding or fixed. whether it's 10 inches, whether it's 2 inches, whether it's got zombies written on the side of it. The issue are that there are people out there willing to go stab each other with knives. Like, stop. Like, I would almost, like, just bear with me here. I would almost them completely ban knives rather than cherry picking certain ones that are more dangerous than the others. It's like my my dad does gardening for people on his on the nearby is where he lives. It's more like care in the community. But he does gardening for people, and he's got I'm not going to be able to spell it, but he's got a hurry knife. It was, I went for 2 hours. It was only one, but I got it pretty much um bang on. Oh, it's on Henny Haynes as well. Even better. So a hurry knife, right? I'll bring this up. This is inarguably a gardening tool. Well, it says it as well. It actually says it. Hurry gardening tool. Right. This is without doubt, and he's explained to me many times all of the different uses and how you can do things with this to make things neater and whatever. And it's like, I'm not a gardener. Like, I mow the lawn. That's about it. Mow the lawn and pull out the weeds occasionally. But he's big into his gardening. Anyway, this is a very specialist. What's the little description? We love to dig in the dirt, and any tools that makes the experience more fun is a tool we want in our bag. After spending countless years testing all different types of tools from locations around the world, Barebones discovered a tool called the hurry. Roughly translated from Japanese, hurry means dig, an expression we can all relate to. God. The Barebones Hurry was designed to be the ultimate multi-tool in your garden, and Barebones' unique take on this should feel right at home in any garden setting. The Barebones Hurry Ultimate Garden Knife tool consists of a quality walnut handle and tempered steel blade. This means built to last. Digging, trenching, planting, cutting, and even popping the top off way. Your choice of refreshing beverage. We think you'll find the Barebones Hurry to be your favorite go-to garden tool. So this hurry now, how long is it? Overall length 35 centimeters. Right, so that's a reasonable blade. That is a reasonable knife. Sorry, gardening tool, not knife, gardening tool right there. But that is absolutely a-okay to send through Royal Mail, right? Yes, with age verification. So at least you've got to be over the age of 18 to get it. Let me. It would really help if I could spell. Let me just get a contrasting example. That's not. Is that, well, stand by. Or maybe they haven't got it anymore. Maybe they've completely removed it because it's like now impossible for them to sell. Yep, it is gone from the website. What I was trying to do is find a machete. And Henny Haynes has previously sold machetes, and I can verify from firsthand that they used to send them via the post. That's because if you remember, when I was trimming the core belt, and as a bit of a joke, I actually bought the knife to talk about the offensive weapons bill, and I started having all sorts of bad ideas of writing certain things on the knife as a bit of a joke and jab about it, and my sensibility did get the better of me in that example. But I've ended up using it in other videos for various gags. But they sent the machete by post. Henny Haynes now don't have a machete on their website at all. But what other things were prohibited? Hunting, combat, survival knives. I'm just okay. So I'll bring this up, right? So this Gerber Ultimate Survival Knife. can't be sold via Royal Mail at all, right? That is a survival knife that from the 7th of May, that will be completely prohibited from being sent through Royal Mail. However, if you want to buy this, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine, can be sent through it, no problem at all. Sorry, what are you achieving? What are you achieving by preventing people from having this knife or being able to sell it via Royal Mail versus this? So rated, incredibly sharp, incredibly long. Like, I'm sorry, but I would much rather people be in possession of this than the other thing, right? That is how asinine and ridiculous the prohibitions are from Royal Mail. And it again all roots from the offensive weapons bill. I digress. So sorry, I was getting into what you guys were saying. David, I don't get it. Did the UK just get a ton of drive-by stabbings and this was their response? I mean, you joke. We can thank London. We can thank London for this most definitely, and the whole thing with acid. We're going to need RKD, registered knife dealer, at this rate. Again, you joke. I just sort of get the feeling we are heading in that direction. Good job. They were willing to still ship alcohol. That's never caused any crime, injury, or deaths. Let's we get alcohol deaths UK, knife deaths UK. Wow. Wow. Yes. So in 2021, there were 20,970 alcohol-related deaths in England, equating to a ratio of 38.5 per 100,000 population. In 2022-23, there were 244 homicides involving a knife or other sharp instrument in England and Wales. Yes. So again, we are spending a lot of time, effort, resources, and attention on something that 244 people die from. And don't get me wrong, 200 and there aren't really that many accidental stabbings unless you're me. I have a propensity to find bladed articles meeting my hands on a regular basis, but that's just because I'm a little bit special. But you don't really get accidentally stabs, and that does say specifically homicides, which definitely implies it's not an accident. So yes, as horrific as those homicides may be, as you know, any one death is too many in some circumstances. 244, that's still quite a big number. I can understand why people would be concerned about it, but yet nobody seems to be at all concerned about the 100 times greater amount of people being killed by alcohol related deaths in England. That's England. That's just England. That's the, and this was England and Wales, so God knows what it is in Wales as well. So this is the ridiculous thing. It's like you get all these people, the anti-gunners, the anti-knifers, and all of that, and I understand a lot of these people that are so passionate to dedicate their lives and their professionalisms to you're bringing in further restrictions have usually been involved or have experienced horrific acts. They've lost family members, themselves have been victims, and I get it. They want to prevent other people from going through that as well. But ultimately, the aim of the game here is preservation of life. And to me, it doesn't matter if it's a knife, it's a baseball bat, a gun, a car, a fist, a rock, whatever. It's about the overall preservation of life. We get too hung up about how. It's like no, it's like well, it's more like why. It doesn't matter if someone's again killed with a baseball bat or a golf club, we don't then start looking at making further restrictions on whatever was used. It was no, there was somebody out there obviously angry enough or crazy enough to go around, hurting people with a baseball bat or golf club. Ultimately, this is about the preservation of life, and I think this is one of the biggest hypocritical natures of people that campaign anti-gun, anti-knife, anti-whatever, is what they're saying is it's far more important for them, for other people to not be killed in that method than anything else. And what that ends up doing is distracting people away from the real issues. Like on average, I think it's 15 or 20 people a year die from guns. Right, the outright majority of those are illegally held firearms as well. I think it averages maybe 1 or 2 per year from lawful firearms, so only about 10%. So you get 20 people a year from guns, you get 240 from knives. You think about the time and effort and resource and the policing and the legislation, the certification of knives and guns, when round about 250 people a year die from it. Meanwhile, we have 20,000 people a year dying from alcohol related, and how many thousands of people die from. I wonder if within that 20,000 they are including drink driving as well, but that could be another addition. So it's just, I look at people that push for knife restrictions, push for gun restrictions as incredibly selfish, because there are far bigger issues in terms of the overall goal of the preservation of life. There is far bigger risks, there are far bigger dangers to every single one of us every single day that can be mitigated, that can be prevented, that should be in some ways restricted and controlled. But we end up spending our time talking about knife control and gun control and crossbow control, when on average 1 person a year dies from that. See previous video. And it just ends up making the bigger issues worse, because they're not getting the time and focus on them. There's a disproportionate amount of focus on guns versus knives. And okay, the difference is only 10 times, but 10 times less people get killed by a gun versus knives. So again, what are they trying to achieve? What are they actually going to prevent? And all the time there are tens of thousands of people dying from other means that could also be arguably prevented. Franco Grady, Amazon will just start shipping them. Again, so this is only Royal Mail, and there are loads of other couriers and other shippers. Of course, UPS, Amazon does have their own distribution as well. So, yeah, what is Royal Mail achieving when there's probably going to be other outlets out there still selling them? You got a license for that blender, mate. You're only allowed blenders if it's a non-locking blade under 3 inches. Otherwise, it becomes, a zombie blender. You can't order shaving razors. What about arrows and hose? Look, what you get up to on a Friday night, Kyle, that is up to you. I've got my Section 7.3 penknife locked up at my local Home Office approved range. Again, we're joking, and I get we're joking, but it doesn't feel like we are. It really doesn't feel like we are. Safety razors are fine. It's anything with an exposed blade of more than 3 millimeters. Yep. Hose are already illegal if you pay. I'm so glad at least one of you was on the same wavelength then. You can't, oh god, you can't ship hose, mate. They are collection only. Oh dear, my drone blades have drawn blood. Yeah, well, again, what is the definition of sharp? What is the definition of, well, it does, in fairness, it does say, let me get the particulars. So Knife or blades as defined by section 1 for let's have a look at actually what section 414A 141A. Section 141A. You can come along and learn with me as well. Again, I spend a lot of times within firearms legislation, not so much time in the knives. Salesperson, shopping subject to section knife. But where do they actually sale of knives and certain articles with blade or point to persons under 18? Any knife? Wait, I guess there's exemptions. If so, it doesn't actually define what a knife is. Any person who's subject to something, the sections applies to any knife, knife blade, or razor blade, any axe, and any other article which has a blade or which is sharply pointed and which is made or adapted for use for causing injury to a person. So, I mean, a drone blade, a drone propeller is a blade, and some of them are sharply pointed. I can attest to that as well. Which is made or adapted for use for causing injury to persons. Well, if you hurt yourself with it, then you can probably say that it's adapted to cause injury to the person. If it's caused injury to a person, then it's sort of been adapted to do that. Really, granted, you've adapted it by putting your fingers in the wrong place, but yeah. So there isn't really there isn't a definition of sharp. What is a sharp point? Like what is the angle of a sharp point? And a blade, there could be some ambiguity there, but yeah, I would say from that, your drone blades, yeah, you need to be over the age of 18 to buy those. Got to rip open your packages like cavemen now. See, this is the thing: is generally, even when I got into firearms, I wasn't that big into knives. And even when I, was well, certainly when I was at uni, didn't really, never found, never felt I had the use for it. Even when I went into my engineering role, now I did have knives as part of my sort of engineering kit. Even electronic engineers need to get a bit stabby every now and then, but it was mainly scalpels, cutting tracks, removing solder, stripping wires, all that sort of stuff. The scalpel is an invaluable tool when you're dealing with engineering, maybe not software engineering, but certainly hardware engineer. But it wasn't until I sort of went full time in the gun trade, and it's nothing specifically to do with the gun trade. But it's more, I think it has more to do with like running your own business. When you're doing a million things at once, you're opening boxes, you need a knife. Even the pull tabs on the Amazon things don't hold up a lot of the time. Sometimes you need to cut into things, blister packaging, and I literally lose count day to day at Magload how many times I'm using the knife for the smallest of things. It is just a really, really handy tool for getting certain things done or making your lives a lot easier. Like getting splinters out. And both Connors and I tend to get a lot of splinters, usually metal, because the Hardings loves creating them. They're just so very, very useful. Cutting down boxes to put in the bin, stuff like that. So yes, packages is probably one of the biggest uses that I do. Carl, what about butter knives? They are blunt. Can we still order sharp screwdrivers and chisels? Well, it does say, it says farming tools. See, again, a chisels can be pretty, they can be pretty sharp and pretty dangerous. I've seen a lot of people hurt with chisels accidentally, fortunately, in a weird way. But butter knives, yes, under that they would definitely be able to be sent. But Screwdrivers and chisels. A ridiculous word, zombie knife, how they can name a knife from something that doesn't exist. Neil, have you not seen Shaun of the Dead? Um, well, Frank, he used a used a Winchester, and that was openly displayed in the pub. Every knife is now a bushcraft knife. What about bayonets with historical purposes? Um, See, this is the thing. It's like you're asking genuine questions, and these are the sort of questions that, like, I'd imagine the workers in Royal Mail are going to be facing. Um, and I don't know. um, can you send machetes, swords? Would a bayonet come under a well, it says replica fighting knives. A bayonet is technically a fighting knife, but it's not a replica fighting knives. So battle axes or anything similar. See, again, a bayonet, I would say, is more, yeah, daggers as well. I would say a bayonet is similar to a dagger, similar to a sword, similar to a replica fighting knife. Um, unless it could be used for hobbies and trades, lock knives, bushcraft, and farming tools. With a blade or a knife, butcher's knives. Yeah, so it's not specifically exempt or just under the restricted ones. And also, what is the difference between a bushcraft knife and a survival knife? Like, aren't they the same thing? Isn't I don't know. I'm not exactly a knife expert, but to the layman, I would definitely say a survival type combat knife, like a hunting combat survival knife. Is that not a bushcraft knife? What is a bushcraft knife? Just I think Henny are gonna have to change this. I really think they're gonna have to change this. Um, oh, it says find a range of bushcraft knife and survival knives. Bushcraft, like, I'm asking the question no one seems to be asking. Bushcraft versus survival knives versus bushcraft knives. I'm sorry if this happens. I'm like, this happens to be like common knowledge. Um, where is it looking? Let's bring this up. Survival knives versus bushcraft knives, two popular types of outdoor knives, but what are the differences and what do they have in common? We've laid them out. Disclaimer, first things first, a disclaimer. Bushcraft and survival are closely related, and some people use the term interchangeably. For this reason, our article will be based on our own perspective, so it's open to interpretation. Basically, that's what they're saying is, depending on who you are and your background, you may class one as a bushcraft or one as a survival. Um, on these outdoor activities. Beyond that, there are many differing opinions about bushcraft knives and survival knives. We choose to share a point. There are two main differences between bushcraft knives and survival knives. The difference in blade length and different design. In general, survival knives have longer and broader blades. This means they can take a beating, and they're better for heavier tasks such as battoning. The larger blade is what gives survival knives their tactical, oh dear, appearance. The blades of a bushcraft knives are generally a bit smaller and often have a Scandi edge. This is what makes bushcraft knives perfect for it's late. Doing things to small game and woodwork, such as bushcraft knives, have a classic and minimalistic appearance. In this article, you read more about the differences. So that's just, I'm sorry. they're both knives. They are literally both knives, and they look very, very similar. You can't compare the two types of knives without comparing the two different activities. In essence, bushcraft is about intentionally. um, but what if you go out bushcraft? I know what it's going to say now. In essence, bushcraft is about intentionally living in nature. You choose to venture into the woods, and if there's anything you need to feel comfortable there, you create it yourself. It's a pastime. Practically speaking, this means camping trips and day trips into the forest, not emergency situations. Survival, on the other hand, is about, you guessed it, surviving in nature, and about getting out of the woods as quickly as possible. There's no room for comfort, and the things you have with you need to be foolproof and functional. In practice, we're talking about soldiers and survival enthusiasts who get dropped off in a forest with minimal resources as a test of their endurance. This can also be done for fun, but the approach is clearly different from bushcraft. But let's say you go out for your bushcraft activities and you get lost, and then your bushcraft knife becomes a survival knife. Does that mean you can no longer send it via Royal Mail? Responses in chat. Uh, oh dear, Kyle. So if it's under 3 inches, it's all right to stick it in, just the tip, and only for a second. The tip doesn't count. I've heard that one before. Talk about covering all the bases. You'll just get stern. You'll just get a stern talking to by daddy magistrates. It sounds like a line from Rain Man, who's on first base. If the British public fall for this nonsense, we'll know there is no hope. I've gone for I've gone back to my roots with my bourbon journey. It's a Buffalo Trace this evening. It's all the different ones. For those of you new to the channel, I do like to critique bourbon, even though I know nothing about it. I'm just enjoying the journey. Buffalo Trace was the first bourbon that I ever tried, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I've tried Jack Daniels is technically a whiskey. But anyway, was the first definite full bourbon that I ever tried. And since then, I've moved on to better, more expensive stuff. But I've definitely noticed more the taste getting better, not necessarily if by buying more expensive bottles. But I poured this this evening and haven't had it for a while, and had a taste, and it just tasted familiar because it was like my first taste. This is like my default bourbon now. It's like it's technically everything is what everything's compared to. So it's nice to go back to your first every now and then. Moving on swiftly, which implies there's a minimum fosh. Yes, I guess it does. Pardon the pun, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. They will ban more and more until there's nothing left, and chefs need a license for their knives. Callum, please turn off the ads. That I don't think I can do during the stream. I can pause ads. 1 minute. This is going to go wrong, and I'm going to end up running one. Delay ads. There we go. You got 10 minutes. I literally, they've got a delay ads, and they've got an insert ad. So if you moan too much, I will insert an ad and go for a piss. No, I go before I stream. I am professional. Just get YouTube Premium, Frank. David has basically, in YouTube terms, just told you to stop being poor. And I do relate, Frank, because I refuse to pay for YouTube Premium. I just absolutely refuse. In my mind, as a experienced content creator, they should be giving us YouTube Premium for free. It really does actually annoy me when I go to reference one of my own videos and I have to sit there and wait for the advert. Like, I'm not. That's just, it's me. My channel, stop showing me ads on my own videos. So I do understand that ads are annoying, but also, I've got to keep the lights on somehow. Can you purchase knives at any shop, or does it have to be an outdoor sporting shop? No, any I'm pretty certain any shop can sell knives. You don't need, I don't think you need any sort of approval. Obviously, there are laws in terms of selling. So if you are selling knives, you need to make sure that they are over the age of 18. But yeah, I don't believe we have we don't have specialist knife shops. You can walk into any supermarket and buy them here, any hardware shop. Even like charity shops, you see knives for sale in charity shops as well. Pocket knives as well. People. So actually, Marmaduke Creations. He started the company from his house. Um, Started selling knives because we can have knives. Not everybody will get that reference, but if you do, then you are an avid watcher, and I couldn't resist. I just genuinely couldn't resist when I knew that I was going to make the stream about knives to just say we can have knives. That was going to be. It's probably the easiest title I've ever had to write. And yes, I'm a little sad. I do sometimes sit there and spend 5 or 10 minutes trying to think of the best title. But anyway, so one man band has a passion for knives, wanted to make knives, and just started doing it from home. And he doesn't have to have a specialist. I know it's not a folding knife, but he doesn't have to have a special license, special permission, although I hope not, because if he does, he's probably in trouble. So moving on, they're not going to stop the blade bandits getting knives when they already obey all of the existing knife laws to begin with. Absolutely. Remember, crime is illegal and against the law. Yes, it is almost like, again, back to the whole preservation of life thing. It's like, is a criminal, is a criminal or gang member or whatever, somebody that has decided that they are going to go out there and stab somebody, are they really going to think for 2 seconds about the type of knife that they're using? Yes, I get that there's this whole argument about zombie knives and threatening, dangerous looking knives being used to threaten and intimidate. And that's why we have all the regulations over realistic imitation firearms, because there's this fear that they can be as effective in getting people to comply as the real thing, even though, don't even get me started on UCARA, um, and exemptions and all of that. But yeah, I understand it, but again, it doesn't really matter. If anything, I would rather, and take this with a pinch of salt, I would rather somebody come running down the street with a 2-foot sword, than having like a compact, 6-inch knife. And I'm not going to descend into the particulars of why, but I'm sure you can all understand the logistics. Firstly, you can see them coming a lot easier. Just yeah. And there was this whole video, so I've shown it on the channel before, where a guy actually talked about, I believe it was a doctor, it was a surgeon, a trauma surgeon. That's a very, very important bit of information. Uh, a trauma surgeon actually said that kitchen knives are far more dangerous, right? Because they are sharp and clean. The zombie knives, these scary, you know, movie knives, that a lot of them are effectively blunt, right? And actually, the thing that makes them scary and being really jagged doesn't actually, it not only doesn't increase the danger or the lethality of the knife, it actually reduces it. It sort of gets in the way. And basically this trauma surgeon was saying, like, pretty much, I would rather be attacked by a zombie knife than somebody with a kitchen knife. The zombie knife is less threatening to you than a very sharp, efficient kitchen knife. David, you can show it on stream. Thank you very much. I will quickly bring this up. I do need to rotate it. So just because he wants to remind us that we can no longer be trusted to be adults and have handguns, David did send a picture of his 92D. You were sending. I'll get the email, because you were asking some questions about it, and I do appreciate you. Let me make it a bit bigger so you can actually all see it. So this is David's new to him Beretta 92D. So you said you acquired the 92D, standing for double action only. That was manufactured back in the 90s, so it's about as old as me. And was wondering if you knew anything about these series of handguns and if any came into the UK back in the day. Can't seem to find anything about these guns, but they ended up in Canada as well for the civilian market. So yeah, I have to be completely honest, and I appreciate you giving me the credit to know anything about these, even though the Bristol 92 FS is like my favorite gun, favorite handgun. So can anybody give David any more information about the 92D? Did anybody own one here in the UK? So obviously, back in the 90s, prior to 1997, it would have been lawful to own. So I wouldn't be surprised if people owned them. But let me know if you've owned one here in the UK. Maybe you've got one under Section 7.3. That could be a possibility. But if you know anything more about them, then let David know, because it's really not an area of expertise. I'm British, don't you know? We're not allowed to know anything about handguns. What is this thing? Devil. It's a tool of the devil. It's far too short. Uh, so Hippie needs to become the CEO of Royal Mail. Problem solved. And that would it. As my first act as Royal Mail CEO, we can ship knives. Knives are pretty much everywhere here in the US. Unfortunately, I've seen people open carry giant Bowie knives and act like absolute crackheads in public. Yeah. Like, admittedly, a lot of my I've probably actually a lot of these knives I was full disclaimer, although it wasn't directly from Marmaduke, but Marmaduke did effectively was a part of it. I was given the Marmaduke knife. The big Bowie knife is my granddad's. The smaller one is my dad's. So both of those I was given. The buck knife I was given. Um, that I bought abroad. These two I bought myself. So I've probably actually bought more knives, and ignoring kitchen knives, and all of that. I've probably bought more knives abroad than I have in the UK. So talking about knives are everywhere in America, I have been to Bass Pro. So yeah, I get there's a big knife culture out there. Royal Mail don't scan internal domestic mail anyway, as far as I've heard. So all this is even more ridiculous. Oh, I'm pretty sure for various reasons, Royal Mail scan. Oh, you say they don't scan. Sorry, internal. I thought you were saying international and non-domestic, because it's late, and I'm tired and bourbon. They don't scan internal domestic mail anyway. So they literally are never going to know. You can send a knife, and they're never going to be none the wiser. Callum, won't the locking knife come under the Offensive Weapons Act as that blade, as a blade that locks? Maybe. You are definitely still allowed locking knives in the UK. That's 100% sure. I think there are other features that would make it prohibited if you're talking about actually legally prohibited. Yeah, they're using the legislation definition of a folding knife being under 3 inches and non-locking, but Royal Mail don't say non-locking. They just say folding and 3 inches. With a beer bottle opener. Yeah, in the garden, doing your hurry. Yeah, open your bottle. Spend a lot of time out in the garden with a beer. Myram, we don't talk about the spicy Glocks. We don't talk about it. It never happened. It's all an illusion. It was a dream. But yes, that's literally just my luck. I'm looking at a legitimate knife website, and spicy Glocks start popping up. Uh, I went on Gun Trader after the stream and found a posting on there that was selling a Glock 19 and a plastic bag of loose ammo. I'm not showing it this time. I've learnt my lesson. So what is it? What's on the blacklist now? I can't go on Discord live on stream. That is just a that's just a no. That's been a very hard no for a very long time. For anybody, because it will take me far too long to find the link. If anybody has the Discord link, then chuck it in. I haven't given Discord a shout out for a while. I'm sure if you don't know what a Discord is or what Discord is, then it's probably not for you, or it's going to be quite an extreme introduction to the internet. Certainly the UK shooting Discord. Um, but anybody that would like to join a UK specific Discord, then UK shooting specific Discord, then hopefully someone will be putting a link for me, the invite link, very very soon in the description below. But yeah, I'm not allowed to go on Discord anymore live on stream because learned the hard way on that one. And now I can't show you Gun Trader live on stream, or I can't show you when I'm looking I'm looking at pistols on Gun Trader. But let's have a quick look. Let's oh yes, Spicy Glocks still there. Just as I did say I was going to send an email, that ended up being a little bit more. Oh, sorry, That this is. Uh, is this someone? Are you trolling me? Is somebody actually now? This is safe because what I really don't like showing are the actual like contact details. But of course, anybody is free to go onto the website and have a look for yourselves. Again, I do not condone, endorse, promote the illegal sale or purchasing of illegal firearms, of course. But I like, you guys are just, somebody is literally messing with me, because obviously you all know I've been talking about the Beretta 92 FS, and I go on there, and there is now it's not just spicy Glocks, it is spicy Berettas. They literally have spicy Berettas on there now. Like, someone is messing with me because this wasn't on there last week. That is for certain. So either one of you guys are illegally selling firearms, then please GTFO. Or the unscrupulous people that are doing it happen to find out and are now like, maybe we can tempt him with a Beretta. No, spicy Beretta, and I'm not going to show you what. Also, that's not a 92 FS. is that you buy one illegal gun, get one free? But anyway, that's enough. That is as far as I am going with this. Let's make that small. I need to put something else on the screen. Let's put a legally owned Beretta, or what I hope is a legally owned Beretta in that corner. So they've got spicy Berettas on there now. Yeah, the spicy Glocks are still there. The spicy Glocks are very much still there. I haven't yet seen any carrier bags of ammunition, though. It does royally peeve me off, though, that these are on there. That, Gun Trader really don't seem to care. It's, yeah, not good. I'm just genuinely curious. God, there's more. There's a whole lot more on here. Why did we get onto this? I need to move away quickly, but it's just so intriguing. But when I say I do take that very seriously. So, as I'm sure, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have you know, through other people and myself directly, there is a I have my little books of contacts, and I know roughly the right people to get in contact with. So I can confirm. I'm just double checking who it is exactly. So basically, after last stream, I said I would sort of jump on it. But so basically the fact that there are openly illegal firearms being sold on Gun Trader was that information was passed to the head of firearms threat for the NCA. So I was deliberating: do I contact Gun Trader? Do I, maybe, like, I don't know, phone Crime Stoppers? Like, I genuinely, like, I don't want to needlessly get Gun Trader into trouble. Like, that's not what it's about. But I genuinely think it's a really bad image for the sport and community as a whole, that the largest gun selling platform, legitimate gun selling platform for the UK shooting community, has these like horrendous adverts on there for illegal firearms. So yes, it's been. I don't really think there's anyone much higher than the head of firearms threat for the NCA. You know, maybe he will just reiterate that owning illegal firearms is a crime. That will never, that ad will never die. For those of you that don't recall it, the NCA literally did a campaign that verbatim said owning illegal firearms is a crime. It's like, cool, yeah, it's always good to just double check and confirm that. But maybe there are more, there's more things out there that need clarity than that. So yeah, spicy Glocks and spicy Berettas. Could I bring my massive lamp on an open carry? Depends if that's a euphemism or not. I've got it. Grow your fingernails out. They can't nick you for something that naturally grows on you. I can think of a lot of things that naturally grow that the police would take quite a heavy exception to. I'm an industrial electrician, and the factory I work at banned the use of knives for everyone. We're meant to use auto retract ceramic blades, POS, that don't work and are actually more dangerous. Yes, fun story time. I don't think I've actually told this on the channel. Let me see if I can find a picture of it, because this is actually at work. Ruger knife. Yeah. Oh, I found it. Oh, it's the CRK2. So I won this at a match quite a number of years ago, right? Where I'm getting to, Henny Haynes, brilliant. Genuinely, I'm not trying to go on Henny Haynes every time I talk about knives, but they literally have everything. That is a great company. And if you remember a pro shoot, there is a discount code, I believe. So that always helps. So I won this knife at a match a few years ago, right? And it sits on my desk. It's UK carry, but it's a very bulky knife. I just chucked it in my desk. And we now have a policy at Magload, like genuine, pardon me, that slipped out, genuine health and safety policy at Magload, that non-locking knives or non-locking folding knives are not to be used at work. And I might not be able to get it on camera. I'm gonna have to stand up. Everyone, look at my finger. Come on, focus. I don't know if you can see the massive scar going down my finger. Anyway, I'm sure that's what you've always wanted, a close up on my finger. So yes, I have a rather large scar on my finger now because of this knife. Um, Now, UK friendly carry, right? And yes, don't get me wrong, I was being a penis, and I actually thought to myself seconds before disaster, I thought to myself, this is going to end wrong. This is going to end badly. The knife is going to fold on me, and I'm going to lose a finger. Well, I didn't lose the finger, but it is potentially one of the worst cuts that I have ever had. And I was scraping out a cartridge for something that we were doing, and I ended up with it on the desk, knife in, trying to scrape it out, applied a bit of pressure, and just the angle and my location of fingers, the knife, the blade folded with quite some force, with my finger in between that and the frame. And I'm not joking. I had a very normally when you like cut yourself, you get a bit of flapper skin. It's very flappy. Technical terms there. This was a chunk. Like I literally cut halfway through my finger. Um, Again, just right tool for the job and all that. But because of that, like they are genuinely non-locking knives are dangerous. Like I will not use one again. I genuinely nearly lost my finger because of it. So, yes, I get ban knives because they're dangerous at work. No, no, it's about having the right knife, and I still have non-locking knives. There's again because of our laws. If I think I'm going to be out in public from work or whatever, I will make sure that it's a um, UK legal carry knife. But if I know I'm driving from home to work, you know, I'm gonna use a locking knife. That's why I like the Benchmades. Though those are my work knives because they're safe. Interestingly, like all of the knives that I've tended to seriously cut myself with, including this, are non-locking folding knives. Yet I've had the Benchmade, which are incredibly sharp and very nice knives, and I haven't cut myself once with those. There is still time. But anyway, it's a cool little knife, but dangerous. Really, really, really dangerous. Um, now you're tempting me. Callum will be right behind me. um, Buy a house in the States and after a time apply for residency. It's not that simple. People say that all the oh, you're into shooting, you're into guns, you're an oppressed Brit. You must go to the States. It's not that. It's not that simple. Andrew, hi Callum. Hi Callum. Is not reenactment a hobby and therefore bayonets allowed? Well, it depends. If you're well, when it says hobby, I think it means hobbyist, as in like craft, as in like hobby craft. I know that's a shop, but like crafty hobby, not because I could say that my hobby is collecting Bowie knives and machetes. So therefore it's a hobby knife. So I think it means more craft knives and hobby. But again, the whole wording of it is just horrendous. What about gas stations? I don't think there's any reason why, like, we don't tend to see knives in gas stations, but I don't think that's because it's prohibited. There's some service station with some massive shops that will probably have knives in them. David, this gun was manufactured in 1992. Yep, I'm actually older. I'm actually older than that gun. I know. With my youthfulness, it's hard to believe, but I am actually older than that gun. Tia Kane, I've got a mild feeling Section 1 shotguns will be banned. I would like to know a little bit more of why you're getting that feeling. I know people have had this feeling for a very long time, but I think for the moment they're fairly off the radar. But yes, we know that they are up there in priority in terms of things they would like to get rid of. I mean, with 3D printers, is anything truly banned? There was a video about somebody 3D printing a knife, like weirdly, and again, this is not an endorsement or encouragement by any means. But weirdly, I think a 3D printer is actually better for printing guns than it is printing knives. But yeah, you can literally make a knife out of pretty much anything. I think there was a guy that made a knife out of aluminium foil. Dan, what do you think of the new trial being carried out requiring partners or firearms license applicants filling in questionnaire or being interviewed? Apparently, it has already resulted in some refusals. Interestingly, you should bring that up because that was actually the topic that was sort of tied with whether that should be the main topic for tonight's stream. And I know we have literally just spent an hour and a half talking about knives, but we can have knives. But that this is a topic that I think is very important to cover. I do think it might need the attention of a dedicated video, but it's certainly that we should all be aware of. So thank you, Dan, for reminding me. As the article says, partners to be quizzed in new gun licensing screening. Now, I had heard a while ago, quite a while ago, about the sort of rumors about this and whether I think it was in the new guidance they talked about. Yes, it was in the guidance to chief police about engaging with partners and talking more to partners. So this is the problem with the guidance, is that it says there that the police should maybe ask questions of partners, and that was it. It was ex-partners that got me sort of really concerned, because there's a reason that somebody is your ex. And yeah, I think most of the time it's an amicable split. Certainly, I'm fortunate that all of my splits previous to the love of my life now all ended amicably, but there are situations where they don't end so amicably, and there are people, there are ex-partners out there that are vindictive and want to make false allegations and make their ex-partners' lives hells. So a massive bucket of salt should be taken when should be used when taking their opinion of their ex into account. But it seems like a few police forces have gone one step further and have created this screening process. So the partners of all gun license applicants are being asked questions for the first time as 5 police forces in England and Wales seek to strengthen licensing processes. The forces, Gwent, the Metropolitan Police. I mean, in fairness, the Metropolitan Police should probably be doing more screening on their own officers, but I digress. Gwent, the Metropolitan Police, Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, and Hertfordshire are testing a questionnaire designed to build a more detailed picture of anyone who wants to own a gun. Obviously, this is getting very similar to like the red flag laws out in the US and all of that, with a particular focus on domestic abuse. The initiative, called Project Titanium, has been developed by Gwent Police with the help of domestic abuse survivors. It has already resulted in some applications being refused or existing licenses being revoked. Inspector Jodie Davis from the Forces Firearms Licensing Team said, "We are absolutely not saying applicants will be domestic abuse perpetrators, but any opportunity to gather information is welcome. We've had one case where the partner was contacted and stated she couldn't speak to the firearms officer at her home because she was being controlled and coerced. The officer met with her in a different location. She disclosed a number of serious concerns that license was then refused, and we were able to put safeguarding in place for that person. Gun license are currently reviewed every 5 years, but campaigner Emma Ambler is among those who want to see strict controls, such as annual reviews. Her sister, Kelly Fitzgibbons, and her 2 daughters were shot dead in Sussex in 2020 by partner Robert Needham, a licensed gun owner who then killed himself. The Project Titanium questionnaire is not a legal requirement, but applicants who refuse to engage or share their partner's details can face an automatic refusal. See, this again, I'm not yet going to talk about in terms of the pros, the cons, and whether I agree or disagree with it. Um, but this is actually, I think, the problem with firearms licensing personified, right? This is not a legal requirement, but you can face an automatic refusal for not doing it. Does so it's like, well, then it does basically become a legal requirement. You are required to do it if you want to get a certificate. You are being forced to do it. So don't sit there and say, oh, it's not a legal requirement. No, you're being forced to do it, otherwise don't get your certificates. Obviously what it's saying is the police forces are not required to do this by law, which again highlights the disparity across the country. So only 5 forces are doing this. They're not required to do this. So why are they doing it? And again, I get why they are doing it. I understand. But this is the problem we have with firearms licensing. You get some departments thinking, we're going to go the extra mile here. We're going to do this extra. We're going to do this differently. We interpret it, differently here, and it's like nobody county to county knows what they are doing, and they've all got their own different flavor. We need consistency, and I would say there's there might be a reason why it's not a legal requirement. It's but anyway, more than 5,000 applications have been subjected to the additional questions since the trial began last year. Inspector Davis said, we've had 7 cases during this trial where we've either refused or revoked a license. That is 7 cases that potentially could have gone on to domestic abuse, homicide. That's a little bit of a stretch. But anyway, public safety. Gwent Police said its firearms licensing officers were trained to risk assess scenarios which may raise red flags about an applicant. You mean they were trained to do their job? It said partners interviewed alone, either in person or in vision remotely, to make sure their answers were as truthful as possible. Even when there was a risk someone may not be able to be honest due to their domestic circumstances. The force said it opened an avenue of communication with police. They may feel able to use it in future. Ryan Bragg, 51, was held at gunpoint overnight in August 2019 by a former partner who began stalking her when she ended the 5-year relationship. She has helped police design the questionnaire. She says, if titanium was in existence at the time and I'd been asked the questions, even though I didn't realize I was in an abusive relationship, the way the questions have been formulated may have started a thought process with me thinking, hang on, I'm experiencing this, but it would absolutely have rung alarm bells for any officer that I was speaking to. Despite everything I've experienced, I'm not anti-shooting. This is absolutely about having people who are responsible gun owners, responsible with their weapons and how firearms, responsible with their firearms and how they use them, who realize it's a privilege. Slight correction: it is a privilege to maintain a certificate. It is not actually a privilege to obtain one. Rachel Williams, who survived being shot by a strange object, said, so yeah, anyway, what do I think about it? At the end of the day, I may have the liberal gun owning view of, like, at the end of the day, we have certification within the UK. If we're going to go through, I'm not going to descend into a discussion of whether certification is right or wrong, but I do quite strongly believe there should be some measures to ensure that, criminals, people that are mentally unwell, are physically not capable, and people that are a danger to themselves or others, shouldn't be allowed access to firearms. They should also not be allowed access to cars and knives and other things that they may be able to hurt themselves or others. And in the UK, somebody decided that it would be a good idea for us to have certification. So, whether we like it or otherwise, we have certification. It does, by and large, prevent people that would otherwise be a danger to themselves or others from getting hold of of firearms. So we've got it. We might as well make it effective. And at the end of the day, the FEO's job, firearms licensing's job, is to try and learn as much about a person to make an informed decision as possible. Now, obviously, a big part of that is speaking to that person. Yes, they can lie, they can deceive, they can, they can manipulate, um, but somebody that in most cases, the person, the only other the person in most cases, somebody's partner is going to know their partner better than anybody else, and sometimes even better than the partner themselves. So I think if we can, we've got certification, we've got these processes in place to determine someone's character and fitness to own firearms. um, Actually speaking to somebody's partner is a very valuable tool. And don't get me wrong, like if somebody is abusive, if they are coercing, they're controlling, they're manipulative, um, and they are abusive. That isn't the sort of person we want having access to firearms. If they're not going to look after their partner, then like yeah, how are you going to trust them to look after everybody else, or keep everybody else safe? So I think it is very powerful. I do completely understand why they have done it. There are concerns though, and the concerns are going to be, you know I think it doesn't say anything about ex-partners. um some the partners of all gun. So, what really scared me um, with the new guidance to police was the whole thing about speaking to ex-partners. Speaking to ex-partners, I think, is a horrendously bad idea. I don't think it should be entertained, because I think you're going to get a lot of bias there. You're going to get a lot of people seizing that opportunity to, invoke spite and hatred. Um, but a current partner, somebody that you are in a happy relationship, they should be the best reference. In actual respect, I don't know, they're sort of contradicting themselves with it, because your partner can't be a reference, but that's a very good point. Is that is the they're basically using the partners as a reference. um I can't. It's going to take me too long, but I don't know whether the stipulation of who can or can't be a referee for you is a legal is a legal requirement, or it's a guidance requirement. Because if it's in law that your partner can't be a referee, then technically aren't those firearms licensing departments breaking the law, or knowing they are proactively you know using somebody as a reference that shouldn't be as a reference? So, when you apply for a shotgun certificate, you need one referee. This is somebody that you have known for 2 years. For a firearm certificate, you need two referees, two people that you've known for over 2 years. And it's basically, it's for you to be able to go, look, I'm not completely mad, because I've got at least one friend that doesn't think I'm crazy, and I'm going to be sensible and safe with a firearm. But your partners, for obvious reason, because of positive bias, your partners cannot, or any family member, or police, or a registered firearms dealer, cannot be a referee. Um, so it's like that for me is slightly contradictory. You can't use a referee in case of positive bias. You can't use your partner as a referee for positive bias, but you can use your partner for checking, like, well, what about the negative bias? You know, potentially, what if you've had an argument that day with them and they decide to, um, you know, take it out on your application? But I do understand the power of asking somebody's current partner. Like, I would be interesting to see the words. It really does depend on the wording. Um, you know, obviously, as I say, it's been formulated to maybe like extract from somebody that there's something not right and the police should be aware of it. But also knowing a lot of police forces, is it worded in a way to maybe invoke something that isn't actually there, if you get what I mean? I've seen all sorts of tactics by the police, um, over the years, and sometimes they can be very leading, incredibly leading to when it comes to victims of crime, and they actually in effect escalate things further than the severity of what they actually were, because they're so almost thirsty for, you know, taking someone down, or, you know, slapping the book at them. So yeah, I think in principle, it's it's a good thing. I think overall, within our certification system, I think is a good thing. Current partners only. Um, at the end of the day, you should be able to trust your partner. Although that's really, it, I don't know. There's so many things I don't quite understand. I would like to know if the people that have been refused because of domestic concerns are still in the relationship that they were in. But anyway, I think overall, the balance of probability of it being used incorrectly, or is outweighed by potentially the amount of things it's going to catch. Again, look how much time we've talked about the failings of Plymouth, the failings of Devon and Cornwall to see the obvious red flags with that perpetrator. So, you know, on one hand, we want firearms licensing to identify like easy concerns. Well, you know, speaking to somebody's partner, they should be able to give you the wink and the nudge. If, you know, it's like, oh yeah, he's fine with everybody else, but with me, not so much. But I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think overall, it's not something that I don't. I think, yeah, overall, it's not something that I'm against. I think overall, it will be a positive um, benefit to firearms ownership. Like, again, not that I want to see anybody lose their certificates and go through that unjustly, um, but having people possessing firearms that are a danger to themselves and other people, and people that are, you know, likely to do something wrong with those firearms, that always looks negative on the wider shooting community. So, you know, that is why we are so self-policing. um yeah, it'd be interesting to see where that goes, but it very much looks like they are going to be rolling that out nationally. I'd get divorced if they failed the interview. I mean, again, like that. I mean, maybe the biggest risk actually is that this causes domestic instances. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm changing my mind here. Like, in principle, yes, I understand it. I think it will do good, and it will prevent issues, which is good for everyone. But, like, first of all, what if, like, do they actually, if they refuse you based on how that questionnaire is answered, do they tell you? Because that is not going to go down well. You know, if somebody is in a, what they believe or have indicated is an abusive relationship, and they disclose that through one way or another on a form, and then their partner is refused a firearm or shotgun certificate as a result of that, and they are aware it's as a result of that. If they are an abusive, coercive person, they are most likely going to then go and take it out on their partner. Like, it could actually end up putting people in quite dangerous positions. And also, even if they don't disclose the reason, and if they appeal, and no, they should disclose. I think they are required to disclose. But even if they don't, even if they are, let's say, coy with the wording to protect the person, or even if it's not domestically related at all, but the partner then starts to get the suspicion that their partner might have said something like this, you can see how it could descend into very murky waters quite quickly. Um, yeah, again, I think it would be interesting to see the full fallout, whether they would actually disclose potential full fallout of it. But I don't know. It's a really difficult one. I think for that, I think that's why the guidance, apart from positive bias and, oh yes, this is somebody I've married, so therefore I will just say anything to to help them with their certificate. For that reason, for the complete opposite reason, and perhaps it's just not safe. It's safer not to involve partners. Um, Again, I guess it really depends on the case by case basis of the people that have already been refused. Um, but yeah, it's a difficult one. But in principle, yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with it. Before it's rolled out nationally, I'd really want to look at the data and the figure. Bye bye, honey. Hello, new armory. Yeah, but if they failed the questionnaire, you won't be getting the armory, or you can get the armory. You just won't have anything. You won't have anything to put in it. Um, they're not firearms. They're deadly assault weapons. They're air assault weapons. I'd assume the partner's an ex-partner can just refuse to say anything at all. Well, again, does that, like, what if the partner doesn't want to speak to the police? Does that look negatively on the applicant? Oh, here's my wife's details. This is how you can get in contact with her. And then they go to get in contact with her, and she's like, I ain't talking to you guys. Does that then look negative? Like, does somebody else's reluctance to comply with the police then negatively affect your application? I can see a lot of pitfalls here. Andrew, hi again, Callum. My wife suffers from dementia, and my FEO told me I had to inform them if she got worse. I and her daughter and son have POA. How would that work with the partner? With the partner questionnaire? Uh, well, if you have power of attorney, does that not mean you can answer the questions yourself? There's not necessarily meant to be a joke, but that's actually like a semi-legitimate question. It might sound silly, but it's like, well, I'm her power. I have power of attorney. I'll answer the questions for her. Like, I would say, because it's not a legal requirement, because they're not required to do it legally for the firearms certificate application, I'm sure on a case by case basis they will um, they will assess the situation. Obviously, it's a difficult situation for you to be in, and your family to be in. So I do appreciate that, and I'm sure the police will as well. Um, the whole thing about you having to inform them if she got worse, you might already understand or know why that is. It is something for everybody to be cognizant of and maybe prepared for, so it doesn't come as a shock. And this is by no mean, again, endorsement or encouragement to hide anything. Certainly if you're struggling in any way, you should first and foremost screw the guns, go and get help, go and get better. But obviously I can appreciate, and I'm sure the police can appreciate that, having to care for somebody with dementia, having to witness a loved one suffer from dementia, it's going to take a toll on you. And if your wife does deteriorate and she does get worse, that's only going to be more it's only going to be harder on you. It's only going to be harder on your family. And there have been cases of the police stepping in and going, "You're in a very difficult situation at the moment. Very emotional. Probably potentially even irrational thinking and stuff like that." And there have been cases like this through loss and grieving, where police have asked the firearms to be stored elsewhere, for certificates to be surrendered. So and in my mind, it's like kicking a dog while it's down. It's you're going through a horrific experience, and a lot of people that I know use shooting as like mental blow off, right? It's like a mental blow off valve. It's their zen time, and as bad as things may be getting elsewhere, like it will get a lot worse for them if they're not able to go down the range and blow off some steam and um and have that that afternoon of peace focusing on the shooting. And actually police coming in heavy-handed and removing people's guns can actually make their mental health worse. But they will want to monitor it, so just so you're aware. And I would say, if you get to the point where you are struggling, I'm not saying about you even for one second think that there's going to be you're going to do something silly. Obviously, if you get to that point, you definitely need to shift on the gun somewhere, or let somebody know. But I would just say, if things do get significantly worse, if you find yourself struggling or not being able to cope as much, it may be worth seeing if a friend can take in the guns, see if an RSD can store them. And again, that's not because I necessarily think you would do something silly with them, but it's more to show the police you're being proactive. I am going through a difficult time. It is stressful. It is emotional. I get that might concern you, Mr. Police Officer. So I've actually, you don't need to take my certificates away, because I've actually put my guns into storage. And when I've adjusted, I will go and get them out. So yeah, it's I can imagine it's not going to be it's not going to be an easy situation, but that's why the police are so hot on this. I've known of people that have been diagnosed with cancer, and the police have gone in there asking for their firearms pretty much straight away. And I believe the best response, whilst the guy that said this is a complete and utter bellend, but I won't name names, but those who know will know. He turned around and they came and said, oh, that's right, they came to take his firearm certificate, but not his shotgun certificate initially. So he got diagnosed. The police became aware that he got diagnosed with quite severe cancer, and they were like, "We want to take your firearm certificate away and your firearms." And he was like, "But what about the shotgun certificate?" And they were like, "Well, we're not concerned about that." He's saying, "Sorry, what? You're taking away my firearm certificate and firearms because you're worried that I might do something silly, but you're going to leave me with a cabinet of shotguns. So it's okay if I do it with a shotgun, but not a firearm." For those tuning in that don't know about our laws, we have two different classifications of firearms. So we have our firearms, and under firearms we have shotguns and firearms, section 2 and section 1. So on challenging them with that pretty inarguable logic, they were then like, "Okay, well, now we want to take anything." And I believe his response was, "Excuse my French, what's the fucking point? I could throw myself in front of a train." And again, it comes down to like the preservation of life. The police are more like, "Well, as long as you don't do it with a gun." And it's like, no, 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 that's not what you should be focusing on here. Like, preservation of life, not the instrument used to end the life. But somehow, his flawless logic with the whole firearms and shotguns, and the I mean, the pretty logical statement, if not pretty severe, of what's the fucking point? I can throw myself in front of a train, actually worked, which I think, kudos. I think it was actually Hampshire. This sounds far too fair and logical for Hampshire, but anyway, Yeah, you know, that is sort of the inarguable logic. It's like, sorry, you're just concerned that I'm going to do something silly to myself with a firearm, but you're not concerned that I could do something silly with something else. But anyway, he managed to keep his firearms at that point. Although he did end up losing them for some sort of sexual harassment or rape accusation. So yeah, you win, you lose. As I said, the guy's a bit of a jeb end. Not that I wish anything bad on anyone most of the time. That was, I think, deserved. Not the cancer. Definitely not the cancer. That I'm not that bad. But yeah, they're losing his certificates. Again, I don't say that lightly. Anyway, that was a significant diversion. But yeah, Andrew, I hope, yeah, if you do want to talk about anything off stream, or you want any further help or whatever, then just let me know. I agree with you, it being a potentially very valuable tool if used correctly, avoiding the issues you raised. Yeah, that's it. It's I guess that's why we have trials, right? That's why we'll trial things and um see how they go, because there might be unforeseen, negative consequences. So we need to, be absolutely sure. And, perhaps it does overall, as long as overall, I don't expect anything to be 100%. Like, you're never going to get 100%. Just like the way, like, we're never going to completely 100% eradicate gun crime, because you're never going to get 100%. Sorry, just checking a few things. But yeah, they definitely need to trial it, and they need to double check there's no unforeseen consequences, and really see also if it's correct. How if people are refused on the system and then appeal and then are successful, um, they're successful on appeal. Like, is the system actually working? Crypto Sam, this is a tactic used by the government, using an additional avenue for them to refuse FAC holders with um, without them being the ones to point the finger as to why. I get what you're saying, um, but there's actually already a load of things that it wouldn't necessarily be them that points the finger as to why. Which can be a problem in itself. But I don't think it's definitely an additional hurdle. It's definitely an additional avenue to refuse. I don't think they really care about them not pointing the finger. The police really don't care if they feel justified in pointing to someone and saying they don't feel they're suitable. Have you got your FAC back yet? No, I have not, of course. As I've been keeping everybody updated during the stream, we had an agreed 6-week period. So for just a quick update, 3.5 years ago, yes, 3.5 years ago, I submitted an application for a firearm certificate, a coterminous firearm and shotgun certificate. They then immediately, no, sorry, I tried to, and then COVID, and I couldn't get it submitted, and all of that. And then, right before I tried to resubmit, when they opened up, or before they opened up for me to resubmit, they decided to launch an 18-month long investigation over my use of firearms, which was all lawful, and they really did heavily investigate. And I didn't deny that I used the guns. I used the guns that they said that I used, and I explained the lawful exemptions that allowed me to be in possession and use those guns, even quoting the Home Office website directly, even though they interpreted it differently. Of course they would. But anyway, they investigated me for 18 months. The case wasn't even passed to the CPS. So what I was doing was completely lawful. And I was able to get my application in and all of that, but it did have effectively an 18-month delay. I had my interview for my certificate with my FEO, and then sort of nothing, and then contacted Firearms Licensing, being like, "Hey, how's it going? Like, I've had my interview. What's going on now?" And they said, "Oh, yes. By the way, we might have concluded that 18-month long investigation on over your use of firearms, but we're still not entirely happy. What you were doing was okay. So we've actually asked for additional legal advice to just double check that what you were doing was okay, or wasn't okay." Um, and then fast forward another 12 months, because apparently you can't obtain legal advice within 12 months. I write to the chief constable. The chief constable forwards that to the new head of Hampshire Firearms, who, in fairness, has been incredibly responsive, has so far mostly stuck to her word, and I feel like he's actually, you know, trying to offer a reasonable service. But the last correspondence to today was she was like, "Look, I'm new to the department." She only took the post, I think, mid-January, so there's going to be a lot of work for her to do. Trust me, it's Hampshire. They She basically came back and said, "Look, we've talked about your case, we've reviewed it. There are a few bits of an addition a few bits of additional information that we want to gather, and I've put a 6-week time limit on this." Now, yes, my first question was, your department has already spent 3.5 years trying to gather additional information to say no. I don't know what you're going to be able to obtain within 6 weeks. That you haven't been able to obtain in 3.5 years. But she is new to the role. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. This 6-week time period expired yesterday. So today, in the afternoon, I sent her an email, and in fairness, she replied within within an hour, or I think a minute past an hour. Let me have a look. Uh, it's an interesting email. I have to be honest. I chaired a review meeting yesterday to discuss your situation, where further information was considered. I believe that I've come to a conclusion. Um, like, as soon as I read that, it's like, okay, so you've come to a conclusion that you're not telling me about. This could get interesting. And I am in the process of submitting my recommendations to our legal advisor for consideration. As soon as I receive a response from them, I will contact you to discuss the way forward from here. So it's very interesting, because it does make you wonder why she would need to contact her legal advisor. I mean, I am also wondering if this is the same legal advisor that, well, it took over 12 months. Well, they still technically, as far as I'm aware, haven't got back to them on that matter, so that's still in limbo. So hopefully it's not the same legal advisor, and she's going to get a response within 12, well, within hopefully 12 days, not 12 months. But it is just very interesting. Now, of course, for firearms licensing, making any decision, or giving any outcome to any decision is incredibly important. It is equally as important to make sure you're making the right decision when issuing a certificate, as well as you're refusing a certificate. So it is a little bit odd, because if she had come to the conclusion, now obviously she's having to go to a legal advisor, so she's not going to tell me yet what that conclusion is, because she obviously needs to check that legally it's okay. That does seem to indicate that they're, well, I don't know. My initial gut feel is leaning towards, like, she wants to refuse it and needs to make sure that she's got legal basis to be able to do that. But equally, it could be that she actually wants to approve it. She wants to issue it, but I guess, given the profile, given the history, and the length of the application, and the various journey that I've been on over the last 3.5 years, if it even if it is a grant that she wants to do, that's her conclusion. She will want to make sure that she's justified in doing that as much as she's justified in saying no. So yeah, it seems a little, if her conclusion was yes, surely she would just come back and say yes, it's a matter of doing it. But obviously, whatever decision she's come to, whatever conclusion she's come to, she needs to check via a legal team, and won't give me any indication until her legal team have a-okayed it, whatever that decision is. So very interesting. Hopefully it's, it's the latter rather than the former. And it does sound like, the next step forward. Again, that sort of, if you're going to give me my certificates, the next step forward is purely for me to just get on with life, and hopefully not hear from you again until 5 years until the renewal. So that does seem to, again, maybe imply it's going to be a little bit more complicated than just issuing a grant. But in the same, from the same wording, it sounds like there's very much an opening for a working relationship, and hopefully it won't just be a rejection letter on your boat, see you in court. If that's how they want to play it, fine, that's their prerogative. But what I've been saying for a very long time with firearms licensing is that you should have a relationship with your FEO. You should have a working relationship with your firearms licensing department. It's not something yet I've been able to establish, not for a lack of trying, and I don't think entirely on from my side. But it does sound like it will be that there's going to be some sort of meeting next. That's the sort of vibe that I get either way. But I don't know. It's purely speculation. You can read far too much into people's emails, but that is where I'm at. So, I will be going back and asking for a more definitive timeline. Certainly, as previously, the last time they went to get legal advice, it was 12 months and still nothing. The certificates are for vocational purposes, and this does this. I sort of hate saying this, but for all intents and purposes, I am a professional shooter. I am paid to shoot. My main source of income comes from the shooting community. I it's very, very difficult to say that, me having firearm certificates is purely for hobbyist reasons. So it is effectively a vocational application. I've been waiting 3.5 years, and I've already been within that waiting 12 months for them to get legal advice. So I think it's only reasonable that maybe mine is prioritized over everybody else's for once, and they can just either way get it in and out. Again, at this point, for all that I've been able to achieve without it, God knows what I could achieve with it. But I've had a certificate. I've been shooting. I had a certificate for 2 years, maybe 3. I got my certificate when I was 21. Been no, that would have been, it's far too late to be doing maths. So I got it when I was 21. This is painful. So I'd have got them in and then lost them. Or maybe it was like 4 years. I had them 4 years. 3 years. Anyway, I started shooting when I was in my 20s. I had certificates for 3 years. I'm now 32. Just check that. I've got to the age now where I've stopped counting. 31. How old am I? What year is it? No, I am 32. So I've quite literally I have not had certificates far longer than I have ever had certificates while being in the shooting sports. Yet I've been able to help build a business that's internationally known, that has world champions on its roster, and still managed to compete at a reasonably high level domestically and internationally. So I mean, that maybe gives weight to the argument of, well, why do I need them? But it would be a lot easier, and I'd be able to achieve a lot more personally and professionally with them. But yeah, I think for once, maybe just get on with mine and give me my answer. So I'm fully prepared. I'm fully prepared for the no. I really, really am at a loss to why they would say no. I think over the last 3 years, I've been able to demonstrate pretty sensible, responsible, and lawful firearms handling. Um, I really don't know what is more of a test of someone's suitability than to have free access to hundreds of firearms and thousands of rounds of ammunition every single day without doing anything wrong with them. But that is taking a very, very logical approach to things. Um, so that's where I'm at. So yes, I was, maybe a bit hopelessly optimistic that she might have come back and said, yeah, actually, we're all good to go. Certificates will now be in the post. That would have been fantastic. I did think there would maybe be one more thing, like, oh, we need to have a review meeting. So I guess we are ahead of where I thought we might be, because I've had that review meeting, and now they just need further additional legal advice, whatever that is. But we shall, we shall see. Either I'll get my day in court or I'll get new certificates. Either way, that's progression. You can't really stop gun murders. Check the gun murder rate in Estonia. Rick B. Callum can have knives, but not an FAC. But I can be a servant of an RFD. So there we go. That's the logic. And on that note, I've given you the weekly FAC updates. On that note, before you all head off, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Next week might be a little bit difficult for logistical reasons, but we will see. I will always. We're on I think we're on a 3 or 4 week run here, and I've put videos out 2 weeks in a row. What is going on? And I have a video finished and ready to go for this Sunday. Like, what? I am a new man. This is this is a whole new me. So yes, and I hope it continues. So yeah, I mean, hopefully same place, same time. I'm trying my absolute hardest to do that. But yeah, thanks for joining this week, and thanks to all you regulars that tend to join every week with here. I know not all you can make it every single time, but it is greatly appreciated that you do. So I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead. Try and get some shooting in. Be safe. Shoot straight. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And of course, as always, guys, I hope to see you soon.